Sure, the new iPad Air and the new iPad Pro at the May 7th event were cool and all, but I lost my mind when I saw Final Cut Camera. Like, you're telling me that we're finally getting the Pro iPhone recording experience with the Apple UI. Tell me that's not a dream come true. Now, I've been using Final Cut Camera for a few weeks, and I will say it is a great app, but it's not all sparkles, rainbows, and unicorns. So let's evaluate this app using Blackmagic Camera as our benchmark. Blackmagic Camera was the app that was used to film the October 30th Apple event. So it's clearly proven itself to be functional. So let's first start with the things that Final Cut Camera does right. And the most obvious when you open up the app is the user interface. This is heaven. And I wouldn't really expect anything else from a company that's been improving the camera app for 17 years. Anyway, all the icons are elegantly tucked away, there's perfect spacing between them, they're nice and big for your fat fingers to touch, and every single part of this UI is streamlined and easy to navigate. It is top tier. Now when you compare that to Blackmagic Camera, oh god, oh dear, this is how I feel when I'm trying to navigate Blackmagic Camera, no exaggeration. Everything is tiny, closely packed together, all on one screen. Like, this top bar doesn't even have a single icon. Imagine your iPhone home screen, but the icons just weren't there. It's all just words. I would go absolutely ballistic. Okay, next up, the sliders. I'll give a little example. Right here, the Final Cut Camera icon. Look at how pretty this slider is. This is what we should aim for. Final Cut Camera meets those expectations. I mean, it's really not that hard to make a good slider. We've been doing it for forever. In Final Cut Camera, the slider responds perfectly to the movement of my finger, just as it should. In Blackmagic Camera, it's painful. Like, I'll be moving the slider, scrolling as normal, and then it'll just slow down, randomly, for no real reason. Like, for example, when I'm using the zoom slider, it won't stop at any sort of interval, like 1x, 2x, or 4x. Nah, it'll stop at something like 5.6x. For what? How does that mathematically make any sort of sense? Oh, and you know what? While we're on the topic of zoom, Final Cut Camera's zoom is amazing. Possibly one of the best zoom experiences that I've had were on those camcorders. You know, with the little zoom slider at the top? Apple's copied it for a touchscreen, and it is perfectly executed. I mean, just look at it for yourself. It is so fluid. Just, oh my god. Now take a look at Blackmagic Cameras. It makes me want to rip my hair out. It is not satisfying in any way. And the stabilization, it's not even funny. So here are two clips of me running in my house trying to hold my phone as still as possible, and you'll see that Blackmagic Camera, even with extreme stabilization, completely falls apart here. Now what I noticed is that when recording in 30 FPS, both of the apps seem to fare about the same, but when you go straight to 60 FPS, then Final Cut Camera is the clear winner. And finally, live multicam, which is like the biggest feature of Final Cut Camera. You can use it to set up 3 cameras recording the same thing at different angles, or you can use it the way that I'm using it. I have my phone recording me with the rear camera, and I have my iPad displaying the video feed from my phone so I can see how I look like. I actually find that use case really useful for recording these videos. Now, I like using Final Cut Camera because of all these benefits, but given that the app's still on version 1.0 right now, there's many things that the app needs to improve on. Now, for part of the segment, let me turn away from Blackmagic Camera and go to Apple's other standard camera app, because it actually has a few features that are missing from Final Cut Camera, and I don't know why. But let's go through the features anyway. Like, how about a level? Isn't a level the one thing that you should add to a pro camera app before the default? Like, I actually had to go into the default camera app to check that my phone was perfectly level for recording this video. I shouldn't need to do that. Oh, and how about a selection between recording mono and stereo audio? Like, how does the default camera app have that? It boggles my mind. Another thing is that a new feature in iOS 18 allows you to record video while playing audio on your device. That is not in Final Cut Camera, which came out after the first iOS 18 beta. Does not make sense at all. I'm still trying to figure out why. And in the Final Cut Camera app, we have a white balance option for flash, but we can't actually use the flashlight while recording a video. So what's the purpose of the white balance option? Like adjusting shutter speed and ISO won't be able to completely recover a dark room. Light is light, and light helps. Thanks Jerry Rig Everything for the inspiration. And that cool action mode feature on the iPhone 15 and 14, it just isn't there in Final Cut Camera. And it makes me wonder, yeah, sure, action mode has a lot of processing to it, but I'd rather have a smoother shot than a little bit of extra quality, right? Also, I have this one remote that I can click a button and use to take a photo or a video on my phone. But Final Cut Camera doesn't have the ability to record using the iPhone's volume button, making these remotes useless. And there are definitely times where you will want or need to use a remote to record a video on your phone. And we also don't have the ability to switch our lens while we are filming. And it kind of makes sense for other apps. Maybe their zooming mechanism for switching lenses isn't as smooth as Apple's Blackmagic camera. But considering that Apple has the smoothest transition between iPhone lenses, it would have been such a perfect opportunity to integrate this into Final Cut Camera. That's 8 separate points, and it makes me wonder how both of these camera apps are developed by the same company, yet they have such different feature sets. It's a little embarrassing. Oh wait, I'm sorry, 9 points. The default camera app can record in the H.264 video codec, which is actually a big deal for a lot of people, since they have devices with applications that can only read that codec and they can't read Apple's high-efficiency video codec. Again, if anything, a pro camera app should have more codec options than a default camera app. And that still doesn't change my point. Now, there are also a few things that Blackmagic Camera has that both of these Apple apps don't have. First, more aspect ratio guides. Final Cut Camera has 2 aspect ratio guides, square and 4:3, 2 of which I'll never use. I share my videos on YouTube in a 2:1 aspect ratio. Blackmagic Camera has a 2:1 aspect ratio guide, as well as many others, and so knowing how to frame my shot for a 2:1 video is absolutely essential. How about a histogram, which would help in correctly exposing your video? How about a tint feature, so you could adjust how green or pink the video looks, and it's not just limited to white balance? And custom LUTs. If you're not familiar with them, LUT stands for lookup table, and it's a filter used to alter the color signs in a video. Something I'll never use, but people want it, I guess? Oh my god, wow, this is not a good time to be using a fixed white balance. And the final thing, which is pretty much the biggest request from everyone who's used this app, why isn't there a photography mode? Now, I understand the app's called Final Cut Camera because it's meant to be used in conjunction with Final Cut Pro, Apple's video editing application. But being able to have a pro photography application made by Apple on the iPhone, that could be so good for people who want to use their iPhone for professional photography, of course, as well as Apple's own marketing. Like you see all those ads shot on iPhone. Maybe if we used a pro photography application, we could get a good result without having to use tons of extra equipment. But anyway, I guess that's it for this video. So I hope you liked it, and thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and comment down below what you thought, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye!